The hits keep coming for the silver and black off the field. They are getting some reinforcements and new additions on the field. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for October 28th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show grows each and every day because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. We will get back to your calls and texts as we didn't have any on Monday's show. Had a two-parter with E-Rob and Landon Roberts, the Raiders middle linebacker, the green dot, guy that I had an opportunity to catch up with on my radio show for an hour long, hour strong on Friday. So just wanted to bring you a little bit of that conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed that. But back to a regular scheduled programming. Calls and texts will close up the show. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll hear about the latest addition to the Raiders, and that is Tyler Lockett, a guy that's a longtime NFL wide receiver, been in the league 11 years, a guy that was in Seattle with Pete Carroll, so they're very familiar, a guy that I think most of us expected to be a member of the Raiders once we found out that he was getting released from Seattle. Instead, he made his way to Tennessee, and now he's with the Silver and Black. The Raiders made that official on Monday. So you'll hear from Tyler Rowland, host of Locked On Titans, who was a guest on my radio show on Monday, just to tell us all what to expect from the 11-year vet and what he brings to the table for the Silver and Black. We'll do that in segment number 2. Here's segment number 1, news and notes of the day. And there's plenty of news and notes to get to off the field and on the field. We'll get into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of this show, which is FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, unfortunately, for the second day in a row, have to talk about a passing of someone big time, a big, massive name and figure and player in Raiders history, and that's George Atkinson. Found out about him pretty early on Monday morning. We were already coming off of the passing of the first lady of Raider Nation, Carol Davis, Mrs. Davis. Talked about that on Monday's show, and then it wasn't too long after that, I got a notification. Matter of fact, my guy Mickey had sent me Phil Villapiano's Twitter, and it just said, rest in peace, George Atkinson. And then later on in the day, the Raiders made that official. But, I mean, man, they always say it comes in threes. I hope it doesn't. I hate to always say that because then I feel like I'm almost wishing another death on the way. But, man, that's 2 massive losses in the Raiders family. Mrs. Davis, first of all, the first lady of Raider Nation, that's huge. And then to follow that up with George Atkinson and all the greatness that he provided for the Silver and Black. And he's another guy just like Mrs. Davis. I never really got to know really well, but I saw him around the facility all the time. And whether it was training camp, whether it was practice, whether it was just walking the halls, I would see him quite a bit. I know JT the Brick had a great relationship with him. Matter of fact, I was his broadcast partner for a while. Heard Charles Woodson talking about GA and Mrs. Davis on JT's show on Monday. Really good stuff. You want to hear that, go to lvsportsnetwork.com, and you can hear the emotions from Charles Woodson. But, yeah, man, just back-to-back gut punches. I even asked Kirk Morrison, who's a guest on my show every Monday. I said, man, what did you think when you heard that? He's like, you said it, gut punches. Those are 2 big, massive gut punches with the Raiders family. But they did make it official later on the day when they sent out the message. Raiders family is deeply saddened by the passing of George Atkinson, a lifelong Raider whose physical style of play helped define an era of football. Selected by the Raiders in the 7th round of the 1968 draft out of Morris Brown, George burst onto the pro football scene as an exciting defensive back and explosive returner, earning back-to-back AFL All-Star selections in his first 2 seasons. He later anchored the defense as part of the famed Soul Patrol secondary of the 1970s, helping to lead the Raiders to unprecedented success as the Silver and Black advanced to 5 consecutive AFC Championship games and won a Super Bowl following the 76th season. George's contributions as a friend and mentor to everyone in the Raiders organization continued long after his playing career, and his genuine personality and wonderful sense of humor will be clearly missed by everyone who knew him. The prayers of the Raider Nation are with Denise, Brittany, Maya, Angela, Craig, and the entire Atkinson family at the time. So, man, you want to talk about taking one on the chin, taking multiples on the chin. Yeah, Mrs. Davis and George Atkinson back-to-back passing away. So I wanted to make sure I passed that along, and hopefully that's the last death that I have to talk about for a while here on the show. Also, news and notes. Lonnie Johnson Jr., he returned to practice on Monday. We didn't get a chance to catch up with Pete Carroll. We were supposed to meet with him at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we got a media advisory and a heads up from PR that they made a mistake on the media, and that we weren't going to have the Pete Carroll at 11 o'clock. So they were going to have a practice and an open locker room, but it was at a time when I couldn't be there because of my radio show. So it started at 2 o'clock, and obviously that's what my show does as well. But Lonnie Johnson Jr., you remember he broke his fibula back in the scrimmage that they had at Allegiant Stadium way before they had any preseason games. He was a key cog, a guy that people were excited about what he could bring to this Raiders defense. And, a lot of people thought that he was going to be out maybe the entire season. Maybe the Raiders were just going to, give him a designation, IR designation, and just release him. They didn't. They stuck with him, and he's back at practice. Does that mean he's going to play on Sunday? Well, we won't know. We have to talk to Pete Carroll and ask him those questions, what he thinks. And I know Lonnie Johnson was interviewed by Vinny Bonsignore in the Raiders locker room, and Vinny asked him, do you think he'll play on Sunday? He said, I'm not throwing any of that out there. I have no idea. Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham, those guys will tell you the answers to that. But just good to see Lonnie Johnson returning and getting healthy. Brock Bowers is supposed to be returning and being healthy. Jacoby Myers is supposed to be returning and being healthy. And maybe even Aiden O'Connell is back sooner rather than later. So something just to pay attention to. Also, the Raiders signed Tyler Lockett on Monday. The Raiders signed free agent wide receiver Tyler Lockett. They put this out in a statement. He joins the Raiders in his 11th season, bringing with him a career total of 671 catches for 8,664 yards, 61 TDs, as well as 40 rushes for 265 yards and a touchdown in 161 career games over 10 seasons with the Seahawks, as well as 7 games with the Titans in 2025. Lockett also owns 145 punt returns for 1,078 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as 127 kick returns for 3,188 yards and 2 TDs. And in a corresponding move, the Raiders have waived wide receiver Justin Shorter. Now, 2 things with this. And coming up in segment number 2, you hear from Tyler Rowland, host of Locked On Titans, and he'll tell you everything you need to know about Tyler Lockett in year 11, what he was bringing to the Tennessee Titans in the handful of games that he played there. But the thing to focus in on this is we know that the trade deadline is coming up November 4th. We've talked about Jacoby Myers plenty of times. We know that he's a guy that is on the radar of certain teams. But as Jordan Schultz put out, Ari Mayroff from 33team.com was also on my radio show on Monday, and he said teams around the league aren't too sure what the Raiders are willing to accept in a Jacoby Myers trade. So he thinks that Jacoby is going to be a guy that's going to be heavily targeted as a potential trade partner, but the Raiders have not really indicated. Like Jordan Schultz from Yahoo Sports said or Fox Sports. Yeah, Fox Sports. He used to be at Yahoo. But he said that he believes that the Raiders are trying to target a day 2 draft pick for Jacoby, which would either be a round 2 or round 3 draft pick, where I think some teams are comfortable with maybe a day 3, like a round 4 or round 5 pick. So the Raiders could easily just hold on to Jacoby, not trade him at all, and get the compensatory pick. And obviously that won't be go into effect for this upcoming draft coming up, but the one afterwards. So they're trying to get something equal to that at least. So whenever we saw that Tyler Lockett was signed by the Silver and Black, I think a lot of people assumed that, okay, this is going to be the replacement for Jacoby Myers. Now, he is not Jacoby Myers at all. He's a good player, but he's not Jacoby. So we'll see what happens. Just, again, watch that November 4th trade deadline, because, again, that's when everything's going to get heated up. You know how deadlines are. Once it gets closer and closer, then deals start getting put into motion. Also, someone that Ari Mayroff told me to be on the lookout for, Malcolm Kuntz. He's got his eyes on him as well as a guy that could end up getting picked up by another team, or a team calling the Raiders and asking for him as part of a trade, but we'll see. So that's the news and notes of the day. Now let's get into Tyler Lockett, 11-year vet out of K-State. What does he bring to the table at this stage of the game for the Silver and Black? Tyler Rowland, Locked On Titans. You'll hear from him next, coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to get to know Tyler Lockett. Now, look, this is a guy that's an 11-year vet. I remember him when he came out of K-State, when the Seahawks drafted him in the 3rd round. I thought, man, that's a heck of a special teams ace, a guy that's a good kick returner, punt returner. He showed a lot of that at K-State, but he evolved his game and turned himself into a really good wide receiver. I would love for the Raiders to be able to pick him up and use him in the kick return and punt return game. But 11 years into the league, he's not really that guy. Matter of fact, before Tyler Rowland joined my radio show, I was doing just some Google searches like, man, when's the last time he did some kick returning and punt returning? I couldn't find any stats on him doing any of that since like 2023. So clearly it doesn't seem like that was what he was doing for Seattle or even Tennessee. And Tennessee has some really good kick returner, especially a rookie that they have right now that we all talked about leading into that Titans game. So don't blame them for not using them at that stage. But what is Tyler Lockett? What does he bring to the table? Me personally, I don't think that he's a number 2. I think he's a really good number 3. So if Pete Carroll and company don't think that, Jack Bech or Dante Thornton Jr. are evolving the way that they would like him to, maybe they could be a compliment. He could be a compliment at that stage of the game, but I don't see a whole lot from him as far as just being some dominant possession receiver. It's Brock Bowers. It's Jacoby Myers. Don't forget about Trey Tucker. He's involved in this as well, as leading the team right now in receptions and yards. He's doing a really good job in year 3 with the silver and black. And then you've got a guy like Tyler Lockett. So if he could be a compliment, maybe it's a good pickup. But what is it exactly that he does at this stage of the game? So Tyler Rowland joined my radio show. We started off talking about him not being the guy that he was when he was peak in Seattle, but he's still in the league, signed by the Titans. What did he see from Tyler Lockett in his time with the Tennessee Titans?
I think Lockett is at a place in his career where you're right. He's not the player that he was during his prime. Doesn't really have that explosiveness, but he's still a smart wide receiver who knows where to be, where to sit down in the middle of zones. He can't really work vertically too much, but as a guy who can move the chains for you, catch a little 5-yard slant here, keep it going, sit down in between 2 hook defenders, catch a sit-down route, move upfield for a couple of yards and keep the chains going. I think he can absolutely do that. It's just that the yards after catch ability, the vertical ability at this point in his career really isn't there, and the Titans had some younger players on the roster that played the same exact role as Tyler Lockett, so I don't really think he got released because he's a useless player and he should be on his couch and all of that like some people thought. I think it just made more sense for the Titans to go younger with where they're at, and Tyler Lockett can still kind of play a smaller role within an offense going forward, I think.
Were you surprised that Tennessee signed him and didn't just run with the younger guys, or because he was a veteran you thought he can help kind of ease them into NFL action?
I would say that it was a little bit of a I wouldn't say shocker, but a little bit of a surprise just at his age, because you look at where Tyler Lockett is right now and the odds of him being a part of the future for Cam Ward didn't make sense. But Q, you've been in the business. You know that what these teams like to do is they want to have a veteran answer at every spot as they go into the draft, so they don't feel the need to do something crazy and go after a position when the value isn't there. So the Titans couldn't have known that they were going to get a couple of decent slot options, young rookie wide receivers in there. They had to get a veteran who they knew they could count on with a young rookie quarterback. And as that rookie wide receiver, Tim DK out of Florida, is specifically what we're talking about, as he progressed throughout the season and has gotten to the point where, just yesterday he had 7 catches for 93 yards. He's somebody who needed to play over Tyler Lockett, but I was a little, I guess not shocked, but just a little like, that is interesting when you get a guy at that age who has kind of the limitations Tyler Lockett does. Now, it always made more sense for him to be with maybe more of a contending team and kind of a veteran role like you see DeAndre Hopkins with Baltimore right now. I thought that kind of made more sense for Lockett than going to a team like the Titans, but clearly, comfortability and relationships are what's important to him at this stage in his career, because the reality is the Raiders aren't winning a bunch of games this year either, and he could have, went somewhere that had a better chance to make the playoffs. So he's just a guy who wants to be around people who make him feel comfortable, I would imagine at this point, and Gino and Pete can offer that.
Tyler Rowland, host of Locked On Titans, is with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920 and Necessary Roughness. When he came out of K-State, I was covering the Big 12, so I knew who he was, and he was really good at punt return and kick return. I haven't seen him even in the stat sheet for a kick return or punt return since like 2023. Is that something that's just out of the cards that he can't do anymore, or he's not capable of just because of his age?
Well, I think he would be capable. I just doubt the explosiveness is there. It's kind of how I feel about him as a receiving threat. Like, he could probably do the job. He's going to catch the ball. He's not going to muff it and things like that. But is he going to be someone who is going to deal with the high-level collisions that come with punt return consistently? That probably wouldn't be good for him as a player at his age. And there's just not a lot of high-end upside when it comes to the explosiveness. It's just, he's a singles hitter. That's great. Get us a single, get on base. We need that in the lineup somewhere. But are you going to be able to get a home run? And I think with special teams around the league, you're needing some guys who not only hit that single, but also can hit that home run too. And when you're a team like the Raiders, and I don't mean to speak out of turn, but the Titans, aren't a team that's winning a lot of games, although the Raiders are certainly better than the Titans. When you're the Raiders and the Titans and you're maybe playing teams each week that you could quote-unquote say are better than you on paper, sometimes you need some of those big home runs out of nowhere, so it's good to have a little more explosion potential on your special teams unit. But he could absolutely provide value there if you get in a bad spot, guys get hurt, and having players on the roster who can serve multiple purposes is obviously the kind of utility that attracts NFL teams.
Did he seem like a guy at all that was, I don't want to say disgruntled, I don't think he'll probably ever have that, but kind of frustrated or upset by whatever role he had at the time?
Absolutely not. That's the number one thing I'll say here. It may look like that because he asked for his release and all that, but the reason that I think that went so amicably is because he has been a consummate professional throughout his time. And maybe the Titans haven't won a lot of games, and maybe Tyler Lockett didn't put up good numbers and all that with the Titans. But again, I reference back to a lot of young guys in that wide receiver room, whether it be their two rookies and Chimdike and Alec Iomanor, or some undrafted free agent guys like a second-year player like Bryce Oliver or a rookie like Xavier Restrepo. Those guys learned a lot from Tyler Lockett, and he had a positive impact with his professional manner. So I think even on a team, that's probably part of the allure here for the Raiders too, even on a team that may not win a bunch of games, go to the playoffs, and maybe the Raiders turn things around and find a way to compete there. But Tyler Lockett's going to be a positive impact on young players in the locker room. I would not call him disgruntled or, upset or a malcontent or anything like that. He was nothing but professional with his entire time during Tennessee, and that's something even Titans interim head coach Mike McCoy said after the release, is that he was a top-tier professional the entire time. And when you're on a team that's maybe losing some games, having a guy who can remain professional and keep doing what you're supposed to do, that can make a big impact on a young team.
So there you go. Tyler Rowland, Locked On Titans, joined my radio show, giving us a little bit of background on what Lockett brings to the table. And look, the other thing he could do is similar to what you heard Tyler Rowland talking about, mentoring the young wide receivers, trying to help them, develop into NFL wide receivers. And again, you have to pay attention and see, does that mean that Jakobi Meyers is on the outside looking in? I hope not. I think anyone who's listening to this show for any amount of time knows how I feel about Jakobi. I think that he's a hell of a player, a hell of a leader. I think it'd be a great addition, to obviously keep him in the locker room just because of what he brings to the table. But we also know it's a business, and it looks like that he's going to walk at the end of the year anyway. So the Raiders may have to try to get what they can for him if it's greater than what they'll get for him as far as a compensatory pick goes. So again, we'll see how it all plays out, but just something to note, as Tyler Lockett is definitely a veteran wide receiver that has familiarity with Pete Carroll. But what's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors we have on the show, and the first one is Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before, right? It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it so easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, and it's private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that really matter. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Don't forget to use the promo code LockedOnNFL so they know that I sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. RUGIET.com. Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. I also want to tell you about FanDuel. With the NBA being back, you know there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps everything exciting about the game, especially when your team's making that late push. You know how it is. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to hear from you. Your calls and texts, 707-654-4693. Let's start off with Vader Raider in the 303, calling to talk about the passing of Mrs. Davis and also the passing of GA, George Atkinson. Here he is, Vader Raider in the 303.
Q, Raider Nation. It's your boy, Vader Raider. Q and Ari, thanks for everything you guys do. And especially Q for doing everything you do. Q, today, I would just like to offer my condolences to the Davis family, obviously, to Mark for losing his mom, and then now, so soon after with the Atkinson family. Of course, George was a great Raiders player. He embodied what it meant to be a Raider. He was, he harkened back to the days of old, and he was he played with that gritty style, that in your face, take no prisoners attitude that the Raiders of old, that obviously you and I grew up with, that we came to know and love. So just a real quick call, and just prayers and thoughts are with the Davis family and the Atkinson family this week. Such a heavy heart with losing, both Mrs. Davis, of course, and George Atkinson. So hopefully, Raider Nation, you're out there and you're thinking about those two as they embodied the spirit that that take no prisoners, that take what you want attitude that we always had as Raider, as not just Raider Nation, but as the team as well. I know we've fallen on hard times and it's tough, and we're all kind of looking for something to sort of, some sort of good news, and this unfortunately does not help us. It's a tough time to be a Raiders fan right now, and I'm with y'all right now. I know y'all feel it too. It's just unfortunate that this is such a tough time for all of us. So, all right, Raider Nation, we'll get through it because we always do, because we're the best and strongest fan base in the NFL. And unfortunately, the team makes us have to band together and be strong. Am I right? I know, Q, you feel that way too. So, all right. Vader Raider is out.
Vader Raider, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, those were two back-to-back heavy hitters in Mrs. Davis and GA. I mean, everything really comes into perspective, right? When people start passing along, you realize how precious life is and can be taken away at any time. It's incredible. I told the story on my radio show on Monday that my neighbor across the street from me, I went to check the mail, and he said, "Hey, Q, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good. How are you doing?" He said, "I'm better than I should be." I was like, man, that kind of helps put it in perspective. Better than I should be, right? I woke up this morning, had my blessings, gave thanks and kept it pushing. Like that, I'm here, right? Better than I should be. And I was like, yeah, that's a great way to put at it. So yeah, Vader Raider, thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Rick in the Inland Empire. Said, "Hey, Q, want to ask or comment, since we need a quarterback and Geno's not it, Aiden is out, and there's no trust in anyone else, why doesn't the Raiders reach out to the Browns for Shedeur Sanders? Since everyone was so high on him in the draft, I mean, he can't be worse than Geno's been, or really doesn't matter at this point, but he could be cheap and long-term solutions if he works out." That's Raider Rick in the Inland Empire. Raider Rick, thanks for the text. I appreciate you. I don't know if everyone was in on him before the draft. I know I was. I can't speak for everybody else. I'll just speak for me. I think that he was going to be a good quarterback. I still think that he has a chance to be a good quarterback, but something's not clicking. As bad as Cleveland is, and they still haven't gotten him in the action, that obviously tells you something. I don't know what it is. I'm not there. My guy Emmett Golden, who's from ESPN Cleveland, also does shows with me on ESPN Radio, says that his time is coming. His time is coming. We'll see. But the reality of it is, I don't think the Raiders are going to make a move for Shador when they could have had him, 7 times? They have 7 selections before he went late in the 5th round. So they could have picked him. They chose not to pick him for a reason. So I don't think that that's the answer. I do have a couple people in mind that I think that the Raiders should explore, and one quarterback that I think is going to go a lot lower than some of these other quarterbacks, and he might just be as good. I won't talk about it right now. I actually teased it on the Raiders Squad show on Thursday on Monday to talk about on Thursday with Chantel Chan and Lincoln Kennedy. So I'll bring that to the table. A couple draft picks that I have my eyes on, or potential draft picks that I have my eyes on for the Raiders coming up in 2026. But thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Proto from Vancouver. He's calling to talk about what he's looking for in the second half of the season from the Raiders, what his expectations are. Here he is, Proto from Vancouver.
Hey, yo, Q. With the second half of the season starting for us, I kind of think it's time to ask this question of Raider Nation, which I'm going to answer myself, which is, what is the hope for the end of the season? What are we hoping for by the end of the season? And I'm going to start it off with something real simple, Q. I just want 5 more wins. Legit, that's it. I don't want playoff. We're not ready for that. I just want 5 wins. You know what I mean? By the end of the season, give us 5 more wins and hopefully be just low enough to get this quarterback that we desperately need, man. Even if Geno Smith bounces back, we got to grab a quarterback this coming year. First round. I'm talking first round talent quarterback. I'm not talking third round. Let's take a project. No, I mean first round. Who's going to compete with Geno Smith? And if he beats out Geno Smith in his first year, boom, he's in. He's a starter. Let's go. If he does not beat out Geno Smith, good. Gives Geno Smith 1 more year to push us into the playoffs. The playbook here has to be so simple that Raider Nation, I'm telling you, we don't need to panic. We're good. Our playbook is very simple. Finish the year out strong. Get a quarterback. That's it. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. How are you today? Sorry about that. I was walking past some folks. Neighborhood. Yeah. So I'm going to keep it short, less than 2 minutes. That's really it, Q. I think what the Raiders have to do is so simple. So to Raider Nation, that's the question. What is the hope at the end of this season for the remainder of the season? Thank you very much. As always, go Raiders. By the way, this is YCD. Peace.
Proto, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. 5 more wins. So basically you want them to play 500 ball the rest of the way. Right? That would put them at 7-10 on the season. I picked 8 wins to begin the season. I think if they were to finish off the second half 5-5, I think that'd be a great sign of, they're going in the right direction. It's not going to be the win total that any of us want. There's no doubt, right? Even 8 was low. It was my expectations, but 8 was low. But if they were to finish off the second half of the season, especially with the positivity that E-Rob has and Landon Roberts and thinks that they're pretty close, especially once they get their guys healthy, I think that'd be positive. And I also think you're absolutely right, your assessment of the quarterback position, right? The Raiders need to make sure that they go get their guy. The biggest thing is, my biggest problem is, don't just go get a guy and just say you got a guy. Go get the guy that you feel like really fits with what you do. Like I mentioned, I think that there's a quarterback that's going to go in the later rounds. Is not a first round guy that could be a really good asset and a good talent. But, obviously we'll have to see how the whole draft process goes. But I like his game in college, and I think that there's a couple offensive linemen that the Raiders need to go and make sure that they try to grab as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Proto, thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. I got a text from Renee. So what's up, Q? It's Renee. First, I want to say I hope that the player from Grambling is okay. I saw him get carted off in the ambulance. Also want to say RIP to the First Lady, Carol Davis. This game against the Jags needs to be for her, especially since they're playing at home. I also want to have some questions for you. Since Tampa Bay let go of Shiloh Sanders, do you think the Raiders should sign him for depth? And the last question, since Kuntz hasn't done anything, do you think if we trade him, we can get some picks? We need to hold on to Jacoby. We need the veterans, and maybe we can sign Lockett for a year and see what he does. Thank you, and talk to you later. That's from Renee. Well, sign Lockett already, right? Lockett's already in the mix, and I'm sure he'll be in the mix the rest of the year. Jacoby, we'll see if the Raiders hold on to him or not, or if they move him before the trade deadline. Kuntz is a name that I mentioned in segment number 1 that Ari Mayrow said he's keeping an eye on. He thinks that there could be some action there, so that's something to pay attention to. Shiloh Sanders, I don't think is a very good football player. I think he's a special teams guy, right? I think he kind of realizes who he is and who he isn't. I think he's a really good special teams guy because he's a heavy hitter. But, you got to also stay in your lanes. You got to be disciplined. I just kind of think he gets a little loose at times. It's funny that we've had multiple calls about multiple Sanders on today's show. But yeah, I don't think Shiloh is a guy that the Raiders need either. They just need to get their guys back, and getting Lonnie Johnson Jr. back to practice at least on Monday is a good step in the right direction. And yeah, man, that I was at that Las Vegas HBCU Classic at Allegiant Stadium on Saturday when the Grambling quarterback went down. I saw it immediately happen. I hope he's okay. I got to do some research and check in with that. I hope he's okay too, because man, they ran out onto the field so quick. They got the cart so quick, and the ambulance came on the field like that immediately afterwards. So it was well known that was a bad injury. So I will definitely do my research to see if he's okay. I'm with you. Hope he is. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got time for one more call. This comes from Rich in Winnemucca, Nevada. Yeah, say that 5 times. Originally from Stockton, Cali. He's calling to wish his daughter a happy birthday, and hopefully she'll be the Raiders' good luck charm on Sunday versus Jacksonville. Here's Rich.
Hey, what's up, Q? This is Rich, calling out of Winnemucca, Nevada. Originally from Stockton 209, but we moved up here, Northern Nevada, last year. Calling to give my daughter a Big Tent happy birthday shout out. We're making the trek down on Saturday morning, and hopefully the Raiders pull it off for her and they get that big win. She's been going to games since she was a baby, since my wife was pregnant with her. It was in 2015 against the Ravens. My wife was 8 months pregnant. And I know my daughter heard the Raider fans going crazy, and I think she's been hooked. She's been going to games since she was, we had season tickets in Oakland the last 9 years, and, she was a baby when they left, and we haven't been to a Vegas game, but here we go, man. We're doing this thing. So happy birthday, shout out to Liana, and I think it's your birthday coming up too, Q, so happy birthday to you too, man. Hopefully the Raiders pull off the big win on Sunday. Just win, baby.
Rich, you being from Stockton is a lot easier than Winnemucca. But, hey, shout out to you. I'm not mad at that. Happy birthday to Liana. That's really cool, man. Hopefully we get to see you at the Torch on Sunday at Coors Light Landing. We'd love the opportunity to meet you and chop it up with you. And obviously wish your daughter a happy birthday in person as well. And, yes, my birthday is coming up November 3rd. I'm the trade deadline baby, right? The trade deadline is November 4th, so I'm the trade deadline baby, November 3rd. Maybe maybe there were some decisions, right? When Mama Q had me, maybe she was like, well, should I hold on to this one or should I try? No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But no, that's how we remember the trade deadline, right? The day after my birthday is the trade deadline. So, yeah, thanks for the early birthday shout out, though. Definitely appreciate that. And that's going to do it for today's show. But like I said, if you do get to the game early on Sunday, I'll be doing the pregame show. We call it Q's Kickoff, live from the Coors Light Landing right before JT and the Hall of Famer Eric Allen do the official pregame show. And I'd like to hang out there and meet and greet with as many members of Raider Nation as possible. So if you're there, if your daughter's there, we'd love to wish her a happy birthday in person. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Thanks so much for supporting the show. That's going to do it for today's show. Definitely appreciate everyone who chimes in on the regular, everyone who checks out the show, everyone that tells someone about the show. It's big time. Shout out to my man Ari. Does a fantastic job behind the scenes. And we'll keep this party rolling as we start to turn the page and start to look in week 9 action, the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to Allegiant Stadium. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.